Captain Deho stared at the screen in his command chair. The message had arrived 3 hours ago, and he had read it at least 20 times. Each time, it seemed more ridiculous than the last. "They want us to do what?" asked Minji, the chief engineer. She leaned over his shoulder, reading the translated text again. "Bow before their emperor, pay tribute, accept their rule over humanity," Deho said slowly. He rubbed his temples. "And they want an answer within 1 solar day." The bridge of the research vessel Songji was quiet. The crew had stopped their work to listen. Junho, the xenobiologist, looked excited despite the threatening tone of the message. This was humanity's first contact with an alien civilization, after all. Even if that civilization seemed to think humans were primitives who needed ruling. "Sir, their ship is approaching," said Hana from the communication station. "They're broadcasting on all channels. I think it's ceremonial music." The view screen shifted to show the Valorian vessel. Deho had to admit it looked impressive. The hull gleamed gold in the starlight. Energy banners rippled along its sides in colors that hurt to look at. The ship was massive, at least 3 times the size of the Seongji. "Scan it," Deho ordered. Minji moved to her console and started working. Her fingers flew across the controls. After a moment, she frowned. Then, she looked again at her readings. Then she laughed, just once, before catching herself. "Sir, their power systems are outdated. Very outdated. They're using fusion drives. Basic fusion. Not even the advanced models we stopped using 50 years ago." Junho turned in his seat. "Maybe they chose an older ship for the ceremony? To show respect for tradition?" "Maybe," Minji said, but she did not sound convinced. "But their weapons are the same. Plasma cannons. We used those in the early colony wars. They're effective against unshielded targets, but our standard defensive grid would barely notice them." Deho felt a strange sensation in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it as the urge to laugh. He forced it down. This was a diplomatic situation. First contact. He needed to be professional. "Open a channel," he said. Hana nodded and pressed several buttons. "Channel open, sir." The view screen changed. The Valorian ship's interior appeared, and Deho forgot about being professional for a moment. Everything was gold. The walls were gold. The floor was gold. The aliens standing in formation wore gold armor. At the center of it all stood the tallest alien Deho had ever seen. The Valorians looked like living crystals. Their bodies seemed to be made of a clear, hard material that reflected light in strange ways. The leader's body was a deep purple color, almost black, with veins of silver running through it. He wore a crown that had so many points it looked dangerous. "I am Tharnix the Eternal, Emperor of the Valorian Empire, ruler of 400 worlds, master of the Andromeda sector, holder of the ancient scepter, keeper of the 2010, the list went on. And on. Deho glanced at Hana, who was trying not to smile. Junho was taking notes frantically, his eyes wide with fascination. Minji had turned away from the screen, her shoulders shaking slightly. "And I address the primitive beings who call themselves humans," the Emperor finished finally. "You have entered our territory. By the ancient laws, you must submit to our authority. You will bow before us. You will pay tribute. You will open your worlds to our governance. This is not a request. This is the natural order of the cosmos." Deho took a slow breath. "Your Majesty, I am Captain Deho of the research vessel Seongji, representing the Human Federation. We did not know this sector was claimed. We came in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars." "Friendship?" The Emperor's voice boomed. "The Valorian Empire does not make friends with lesser species. We guide them. We protect them. We rule them. It is our sacred duty, granted to us by our 10,000 years of wisdom." 10,000 years. Daiho tried to imagine what humanity had been doing 10,000 years ago. Farming. Building the first cities. Nowhere near space travel. With respect, Your Majesty, humanity cannot accept vassal status. We are an independent species. Perhaps we could discuss a treaty between equals? The Emperor's crystalline face somehow managed to show anger. Equals? You dare? Your species has barely left its home system. You travel in primitive vessels. You have no understanding of the great powers of the galaxy. Behind Daiho, someone snorted. He did not turn to see who it was, but he suspected Minji. The Emperor seemed not to notice. We shall demonstrate our power, the Emperor declared. Then you will understand the futility of resistance. Our diplomatic vessel will dock with yours. You will receive our ambassador. You will hear our terms. You will submit. The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Taejin, the pilot, said what everyone was thinking. Did that just happen? Did a civilization that still uses fusion drives just threaten us? They have 400 worlds, Junho said quietly. That's significant. Even if their technology is behind ours. That's 400 planets worth of resources and population. That they conquered over 10,000 years, Minji added. We've colonized 60 worlds in 300 years, with better technology. Working the math, they're expanding slower than we did during the Great Sleep, when half our ships were in storage. Daiho held up a hand. Enough. We're going to handle this professionally. Junho, I want everything we can learn about Valorian culture. Hana, prepare a proper diplomatic response. Be polite but firm. Minji, keep scanning their ship. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. Quote, and if they attack? Taejin asked. They won't, Daiho said, hoping he was right. This is a diplomatic vessel. They're trying to intimidate us, not destroy us. It's not working very well, Taejin muttered. Over the next hour, the Valorian ship moved closer. Daiho watched it approach on the view screen. It really was beautiful in its own way. All that gold and energy. It looked like something from an old painting, a ship of legend and myth. Minji kept running scans. Her reports grew more detailed and more worrying. Not because the Valorians were powerful, but because they were not. Their shields were basic. Their weapons were limited. Their engines were inefficient. The ship itself was well built, clearly made with care and skill. But it was technology from humanity's past. Sir, Hana said suddenly, I've been analyzing their broadcasts, their language, their cultural markers, everything. I think I understand what's happening. Tell me, they've never met a species like us before. All their vassal races were pre-spaceflight when the Valorians found them. They've spent 10,000 years conquering primitives. They show up in these golden ships, demonstrate some basic technology, and everyone surrenders. Daiho felt that urge to laugh again, stronger this time. And now they've met us. And now they've met us, Hana agreed. A species that's not impressed. They don't know what to do with that. The Valorian ship was close now, moving into docking position. Daiho stood up from his chair. Junho, Hana, you're with me. We'll meet their ambassador. Minji, you have the bridge. If anything goes wrong, pull back to a safe distance. Define wrong, Minji said. You'll know it when you see it. Daiho walked to the docking bay, his heart beating faster than he wanted to admit. This was first contact. This was history. Even if the aliens were less advanced than expected, even if they were demanding and arrogant, this moment mattered. Humanity had reached the stars and found they were not alone. He just wished their new neighbors were not so absolutely ridiculous. The airlock hissed open. Golden light spilled into the Songji's docking bay. Daiho straightened his uniform and prepared to meet the Valorian Empire's ambassador. He told himself to be professional, to be diplomatic, to represent humanity with dignity and grace. He lasted almost 3 whole minutes before the urge to laugh became completely impossible to suppress. The Valorian ambassador's name was Velthar the Wise, bearer of the third crystal, voice of the Emperor, and approximately 7 other titles that Deho stopped listening to after the first minute. The ambassador was shorter than the Emperor, only about 7 feet tall, with a blue-tinted crystalline body that sparkled in the docking bay lights. Behind Velthar stood 6 guards in ceremonial armor. They carried staffs that glowed at the tips. Weapons, Deho assumed, though they looked more decorative than dangerous. The guards stood perfectly still, like statues. "Captain Deho," Velthar said, his voice deep and resonant. "I bring greetings from the Eternal Empire. And I bring terms for your surrender." "We prefer to call it a negotiation," Deho replied carefully. Velthar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "There is nothing to negotiate. The Valorian Empire has stood for 10,000 years. We have guided hundreds of species to civilization. Your people will benefit greatly from our wisdom." Junho stepped forward, unable to contain his curiosity. "If I may ask, Ambassador, how many spacefaring species have you encountered?" The question seemed to surprise Velthar. "Spacefaring? None, of course. We bring the gift of space travel to primitive worlds. We are the only ones who have mastered the stars." Deho and Junho exchanged glances. That explained a lot. "Perhaps we could discuss this more comfortably?" Deho suggested. "We have a conference room prepared." The walk to the conference room was interesting. The Valorian guards kept stopping to examine things. The wall panels fascinated them. The lighting fixtures caused whispered conversations. At one point, one guard reached out to touch a standard data screen and jerked back when it responded to his touch. Minji met them at the conference room door. She had changed into a clean uniform, but Deho could see the amusement in her eyes. She nodded politely to the Valorians and took a seat at the table. Velthar sat in the chair, Deho indicated, though his crystalline body did not seem to need the support. His guards arranged themselves along the walls, still holding their glowing staffs. "Now then," Velthar began. "The terms. First, your species will acknowledge the Emperor as supreme ruler. Second, you will provide tribute of rare metals and technological knowledge. Third, you will allow Valorian administrators to oversee your worlds." "Ambassador," Deho interrupted gently, "I think there's been a misunderstanding. Humanity cannot accept these terms. We are an independent, spacefaring civilization. We have our own government, our own technology, our own way of life." Velthar's crystalline face somehow conveyed confusion. "But you must accept. All species accept. It is the natural order. Perhaps for species who had not yet developed space travel," Hana said. "But we have. We have 60 colonized worlds. We have hundreds of ships. We have our own history of reaching the stars." The ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You are lying. This is a trick. No species develops space travel without Valorian guidance. It is impossible." Minji leaned back in her chair. "With respect, Ambassador, we're sitting in a human-built ship right now. We traveled here using quantum fold engines. We've been exploring space for over 3 centuries. Quantum fold engines?" Velthar repeated the words like they were foreign. "What are these?" "1. Minji blinked. "You don't have fold engines? How do you travel between stars?" Through the void, as all civilized beings do. Our fusion drives are the pinnacle of technology." Deho saw Minji bite her lip. He knew what she was thinking. Fusion drives were not slow, exactly, but compared to fold engines, they were like comparing a bicycle to a high-speed train. The Valorians must spend years, maybe decades, traveling between their worlds. "Perhaps a demonstration would help," Junho suggested. "We could show you our technology, share information about human civilization." Velthar stood abruptly. "A demonstration. Yes. But we shall provide it. You will see the might of the Valorian Empire. You will see why resistance is futile. Tomorrow, our fleet will show you the power we command. Then you will understand." He swept out of the room, his guards following. Deho heard one of them whisper, "Did you see the lights?" They followed my hand. How did they do that? When the Valorians were gone, Minji put her head down on the table. Her shoulders shook with silent laughter. "This is not funny," Deho said. But he was smiling too. "Sir, they threatened to demonstrate their power," Taejin said over the intercom. He had been listening from the bridge. "They're bringing more ships. What do we do?" We wait and watch," Deho replied. "And we try very hard not to laugh." The demonstration came the next morning. 5 more Valorian ships arrived, each as golden and impressive as the first. They arranged themselves in a formation that looked ceremonial and practiced. Then Ambassador Velthar contacted the Seongji again. "Behold, the might of the Eternal Empire," he declared. "We shall now demonstrate our planet-breaking power. Watch and despair." The Valorian ships targeted a small, lifeless moon orbiting a nearby gas giant. Their weapons charged with visible energy, crackling with power. It looked impressive. It looked terrifying. Then they fired. The first volley hit the moon's surface, creating a crater about a kilometer wide. The second volley widened it. The Valorian ships kept firing, their plasma cannons glowing hot. After an hour, the moon had several large craters. After 2 hours, those craters had connected. After 3 hours, the moon finally broke apart, chunks of rock drifting slowly into space. "Impressive," Deho said into the comm channel, trying to sound sincere. "That was your first and only warning," Velthar replied. "Imagine that power turned against your worlds." After the transmission ended, Minji pulled up her own calculations. "Sir, our standard mining drones could have done that in 20 minutes. Maybe 15 if we rushed. 18 place, I know. And they damaged 3 of their own ships doing it. Look at the heat signatures. They're venting plasma. They'll need repairs." "I know," Deho said again. Junho was pacing the bridge, his excitement from yesterday replaced with concern. "This is bad. Not because they're powerful, but because they're not. They think they are. They've spent 10,000 years believing they're invincible. What happens when they realize they're not? And for?" It was a good question. Deho did not have a good answer. The next transmission came from someone new. Ambassador Kyungsoo had arrived from Earth, sent by the Federation to handle the diplomatic situation officially. He appeared on screen, looking tired but professional. "Captain Deho, I've reviewed your reports. I'm taking over negotiations as of now." "Yes, sir. Good luck." Kyungsoo smiled grimly. "I'll need it." Ambassador Kyungsoo's first meeting with the Valorians lasted 6 hours. Deho watched from the bridge, listening to both sides try to communicate across a gap of understanding that seemed wider than space itself. Kyungsoo was patient. He explained humanity's position calmly. He offered friendship, trade, cultural exchange. He praised the Valorian Empire's longevity and obvious achievements. He was the perfect diplomat. The Valorians did not understand a single word of it. "You speak of friendship, but friendship implies equality," Velthar said. "There is no equality between the Valorian Empire and lesser species. There is only guidance and gratitude." "But we are not a lesser species," Kyungsoo replied. "Our technologies are different, perhaps more advanced in some areas. Our civilizations are simply different. Impossible. You are young, you are small, you are less." Around and around they went. Deho felt exhausted just listening to it. How did you negotiate with someone who could not imagine being wrong? That night, Yuna, the ship's doctor, came to Deho's quarters. She brought 2 cups of coffee and a worried expression. "We need to talk about the ethical implications," she said. "Of what?" "Of this. All of this. These people have built their entire civilization on being the strongest, the wisest, the best. Their culture, their identity, their sense of purpose. It all depends on that belief. What happens when we prove it's not true? Deho sipped his coffee. It was cold. What do you suggest? I don't know. But I know that humiliation can be dangerous, especially for the proud. She was right, of course. Deho thought about it long into the night. Outside his window, the Valorian ships floated in formation, golden and beautiful and completely outmatched. They did not know it yet, but they would learn soon. The only question was what they would do when they did. The arrival of Prince Velmore changed everything. He came in a ship that made the others look plain, covered in so much gold and crystal that it hurt to look at directly. His transmission was not a request or even a demand. It was a statement of absolute authority. I am Velmore, first prince of the Eternal Empire, heir to the Crystal Throne, commander of legions. I come to correct the insult done to our empire. You will submit, or you will be destroyed. The prince himself was younger than the emperor. His crystalline body, a bright orange that seemed to glow from within. He wore armor that looked ceremonial, but probably was not functional. A crown sat on his angular head, smaller than his father's but still elaborate. Deho watched the transmission with growing worry. This was not the confused ambassador or the distant emperor. This was someone young, proud, and angry. He brought a fleet, Tajin reported. 20 ships, all armed. They're not in an attack formation yet, but they could be quickly. Any sign of human reinforcements? Deho asked. Admiral Seonghua is 3 days away with a battle group. Ambassador Kyongsu requested them when the prince's arrival was announced. 3 days. A lot could happen in 3 days. Prince Velmore insisted on coming aboard the Seongji personally. He brought his own ambassador, his warriors, and several Valorian scholars. The scholars carried strange devices that hummed and glowed. They seemed to be recording everything. The prince swept into the conference room like he owned it. His guards arranged themselves with military precision this time. Not the ceremonial standing from before. These were real soldiers, Deho realized. Or what passed for real soldiers in the Valorian Empire. I have come to witness your technology, the prince announced. My father believes you are primitive beings making false claims. I will prove him correct. Junho looked at Deho, who nodded slightly. What would you like to see, Your Highness? Everything. Your engines. Your weapons. Your computers. We will examine them all, and we will expose your lies. Minji led the Valorian scholars to the engine room. Deho stayed with the prince in the conference room, along with Kyongsu and Hana. Through the internal cameras, they watched the Valorians examine the quantum fold drive. At first, the scholars were confident, pointing at components and speaking rapidly in their language. Then, they became confused. Then, they became quiet. One of them took out a device and scanned the engine core. The device made a sound like a whale and shut down. Your Highness, one scholar said over the comm, his voice shaking. This technology, we do not understand it. It operates on principles we have never seen. The energy output is what? The prince demanded. 10,000 times greater than our best engines, Highness. Perhaps more. We cannot accurately measure it. The conference room became very quiet. Prince Velmore stared at the screen, showing his scholars clustered around the engine. Their confident postures gone. Lies, he said finally. We could demonstrate it, Minji offered over the comm. We could make a short jump. You would see it work. No. The prince said quickly. Too quickly. We will examine your weapons instead. The weapons demonstration went worse. The Valorians insisted on testing human combat capabilities. So Jiwan, the security chief, agreed to a simulation in the training room. She wore a standard combat exosuit, the kind human marines used for boarding actions or planetary combat. Prince Velmore sent his best warrior, a massive Valorian with a body like dark green crystal. He carried a spear that crackled with energy and wore armor that the prince assured everyone was nearly indestructible. The match lasted 11 seconds. Jiwon did not even try to hurt the warrior. She simply grabbed his spear, her exosuit's strength far exceeding his, and pulled it away. When he charged at her, she sidestepped and gently pushed him. He flew across the room and hit the padded wall. "I yield," the warrior said, stunned. Prince Velmore stood frozen. "Again. Fight again." They fought 3 more times. Each time, Jiwon won easily. She was clearly trying to be gentle, trying not to humiliate the warrior. But there was no hiding the difference in capability. The exosuit was just too strong, too fast, too advanced. "The armor gives her unfair advantage," the prince protested. "It's standard equipment," Jiwon said. "Most human soldiers wear something like this." One of the Valorian scholars, a female with a silver-tinted body, approached Daeho. She had been quiet throughout the demonstrations, watching everything with intense focus. "May I speak with you privately, Captain?" she asked. Her name was Ithreen, and she was the prince's chief scientific advisor. In a small office away from the others, she sat down heavily. "You are more advanced than us," she said simply. "Much more advanced. This ship is called a research vessel, yes?" "Yes." "Not a warship?" "No. We have warships, but this is not one of them." Ithreen was silent for a long moment. "I have studied the history of our empire. I know how we conquered our vassal worlds. We found pre-industrial societies, showed them our ships and weapons, and they surrendered. We have done this for 10,000 years. We have never met equals." "You've met us now," Daeho said quietly. "Yes. And I am afraid of what the prince will do. He cannot accept this. His pride, his identity, everything he believes about the Valorian Empire, it is all based on our superiority. If he admits you are more advanced, the entire empire might collapse." "What do you mean?" Ithreen looked out the small window at the stars. "Our vassal worlds outnumber us greatly. They accept our rule because they believe we are unstoppable. If they learn that we are not, that we were simply fortunate to never meet real opposition, there could be rebellions. Wars. The empire could tear itself apart." Daeho felt a chill. "So what happens now?" "I do not know. But I fear the prince will choose war rather than lose face. And war with you would be suicide," Daeho finished. She nodded. Back in the conference room, Prince Velmore had regained his composure, though his glow seemed dimmer. "These demonstrations prove nothing. You have built clever toys, but you lack true power. You lack wisdom. You lack the authority of ages." "Your Highness," Kyungsu said carefully, "we do not seek to challenge your authority. We only ask to be recognized as an independent species. We can be friends, allies even, but we cannot be subjects." "There is no such thing as an independent species in this sector," the prince replied. "There is only the empire and those who serve it. You will learn this truth." That night, long after the Valorians had returned to their ships, Daeho called a meeting with his senior staff. Everyone looked tired and worried. "The situation is getting dangerous," Yuna said. "The prince is backed into a corner. Cornered people do stupid things. We should show more of our capabilities," Taejin suggested. "Make them understand that fighting would be pointless." "That might trigger exactly what we're trying to avoid," Junho countered. "If we humiliate them completely, they might feel they have no choice but to attack. Pride can be more powerful than logic." Minji leaned forward. "What if we pretended to be impressed, just went along with their demands? Let them save face? And then what?" Hana asked. "Other species are watching. If humanity bows to the Valorians, we set a precedent. Every empire in the galaxy will think humans can be intimidated. If we fight, even in self-defense, we might destroy an ancient civilization," Yuna said. 10,000 years of culture, art, history, gone because of pride. Deho listened to them all. These were the questions that kept him awake at night. There was no good answer. Every choice led to problems. The alert came at 0300 hours. Deho was asleep in his quarters when the alarm woke him. He was on the bridge in less than a minute. Report, he snapped. Valorian attack, Tajin said. Not the prince's ships. Someone else. 3 vessels, smaller and faster. They're firing on us. Shields? Up. Their weapons aren't even scratching them. On the view screen, 3 dark Valorian ships circled the Xiongji, firing plasma cannons continuously. The shots splashed against the ship's defensive grid like rain against a window. Who are they? Deho demanded. Receiving a transmission, Hana said. They're calling themselves the Pure Crystal Faction. They say humanity's lies must be exposed. They say they'll prove Valorian superiority. They're not authorized by the prince, Junho said, reading the translation. This is a rogue group. Extremists. The attack continued for another minute. Then, the Xiongji's automated defense systems activated. They had been programmed to respond to sustained fire as a threat. Point defense lasers, designed to intercept missiles and debris, locked onto the Valorian ships. No, Deho shouted. But he was too late. The lasers fired. Not to destroy, just to disable. But the Valorian ships' shields were so weak that the lasers cut straight through them. In 3 seconds, all 3 ships were drifting, their engines destroyed, life support failing. Get emergency teams over there now, Deho ordered. I want those crews safe. The rescue was successful. All the Valorian extremists survived, rescued by human emergency teams in protective suits. But the damage was done. Every Valorian ship in the system had seen what happened. They had seen 3 of their vessels disabled in seconds by automated systems, not even crew-operated weapons, just defense systems. Prince Velmore's transmission came an hour later. His image appeared on screen, and Deho saw something he had not expected to see. The prince's confident posture was gone. His bright orange glow had faded. His eyes, alien as they were, showed something that looked like shock. Captain Deho, the prince said quietly. We need to talk. Really talk. No more ceremonies. No more pride. Just truth, Deho nodded. Admiral Sionghua arrived with the human battle group exactly on schedule. 5 warships dropped out of fold space, their arrival precise and coordinated. They were not as pretty as Valorian vessels, built for function rather than ceremony, but their power was obvious even to untrained eyes. Deho watched the Valorian fleet's reaction. Several ships moved into defensive positions. Others seemed to hesitate. The prince's flagship stayed where it was, but Deho could imagine the panic on board. Admiral on screen, Hana said. Sionghua was older than Deho. Her hair gray and her face lined with years of command. She did not look happy. Captain Deho. Ambassador Kyongsu. Status report. 2. Deho summarized the last 4 days. The admiral's expression grew darker with each detail. So we have an ancient empire that believes it's invincible, a young prince who's realizing it's not, and extremist factions willing to attack us to prove their superiority. Does that about cover it? Yes, ma'am. Wonderful. And I suppose we're expected to handle this without starting an interstellar war? That would be preferred, ma'am. Sionghua sighed. I'll position the battle group defensively. Make it clear we're not attacking, but we're also not helpless. You continue negotiations. And Captain, try not to humiliate them more than absolutely necessary. Yes, ma'am. The meeting with Prince Velmore was different this time. He came alone, except for Ithreen and 1 guard. No ceremony. No golden armor. Just a young being who looked tired and confused. Your reinforcements have arrived, the prince said. It was not a question. Yes, Your Highness. Those are warships. Real warships. Yes. Velmore sat down without being invited. The action was so unprincely that Deho almost commented on it. Scholar Ithreen has been explaining things to me, about technology, about development, about how we have been mistaken. Ithreen spoke up. I have shown the prince the scans we took of your ship, the energy readings, the material analysis, the computational power. By our best estimates, your technology is at least 500 years ahead of ours. Perhaps more. We do not mean to offend, Deho began. Please do not. Velmore interrupted. Do not be diplomatic right now. I need truth. How is this possible? How did your species advance so quickly? We have had 10,000 years of study, of expansion, of progress. How did you surpass us in a fraction of that time? It was Junho who answered. May I ask a question first, Your Highness? How long do Valorians live? The prince looked puzzled by the question. We are crystalline beings. We do not age as organic species do. Most Valorians live for 3,000 years. Some longer. And how long do humans live? I do not know. About 80 years, Junho said. Maybe 100. With good medical care. The prince stared. That is brief. Painfully brief. Yes, but it means that in your 10,000 years, your species has had perhaps 3 or 4 generations. Humanity has had over 100 generations in the same time period. Each generation learns from the last, improves on the last, challenges the last. Change happens faster for us because we do not have time to be slow. Ithreen made a sound of realization. Of course. The rate of change theory. I read about it in ancient texts, but never considered applying it to species comparison. Shorter lives mean faster cultural evolution, faster technological progress. It explains everything. Velmore was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was small. We have been proud of our longevity. We thought it made us superior, but it made us slow. Stagnant. Not stagnant, Deho said. You've built an empire that has lasted 10,000 years. That's remarkable. Most human empires barely last a few centuries before they collapse. Different species have different strengths. Pretty words, Captain. But we both know the truth. If we fight you, we lose. Badly. No one contradicted him. Kyungsoo leaned forward. Your Highness, we don't want to fight. We don't want to destroy your empire. We came to this sector in peace, and we still want peace. But you will not submit. No. And if we insist, if my father, the Emperor, demands it, then we will defend ourselves. Kyungsoo said simply. We don't want to. But we will. Velmore looked at his hands, watching the light play through his crystalline fingers. Ithreen is right. If our vassal worlds learn the truth, there will be rebellions. 400 worlds, most of which were conquered, not joined willingly. They stay loyal because they fear our power. If they stop fearing, your empire will fall. Ithreen finished. Maybe it should, the prince said bitterly. Maybe an empire built on lies deserves to fall. It's not built entirely on lies, Junho said. You have accomplished real things. You've brought space travel to species that might have taken millennia to develop it themselves. You've maintained peace across 400 worlds for thousands of years. That matters. Peace through fear. Peace is still peace. A transmission interrupted them. It was from one of the Valorian ships, marked as the flagship of General Krathor, commander of the prince's military forces. Your Highness, we have a problem, the general said without preamble. He looked old for a Valorian, his body dark gray with age. The extremist attack has caused exactly what we feared. News has spread to the vassal worlds. They're asking questions. 3 worlds have already refused to send their tribute. 2 more are demanding renegotiation of their treaties. Velmore closed his eyes. It's starting. Yes, Highness. And there's more. The Emperor has heard about the human warships. He is sending the Grand Fleet. All 300 vessels. He intends to destroy the humans and prove Valorian might. Deho felt his stomach drop. 300 ships. Even outdated ones. That was a significant force. And if the human battle group destroyed them all, the entire galaxy would learn that the Valorian Empire was powerless. When will they arrive? Seonghua asked. She had been listening from the bridge. 5 days, General Krathor said. And may I speak plainly? Please, Velmore said. We will lose. I have reviewed the data on human technology. We will lose badly. Our ships will be destroyed. Thousands of Valorians will die. And for what? Pride? The Empire will fall anyway, after such a defeat. Then what do you suggest, General? I suggest we talk. Really talk. Find a way to save face, while accepting reality. I am a soldier. Highness, I do not fear death, but I fear senseless death, and this would be very senseless. The General's transmission ended. The room was quiet, except for the hum of the ship's systems. We need a plan, Kyungsoo said. We have 5 days to find a solution that doesn't involve destroying the Grand Fleet. Is there one? Velmore asked. There has to be, Deho said. We just have to find it. Deho. Over the next 3 days, they worked. Humans and Valorians together, trying to find a path through the impossible situation. Yoonji arrived, a civilian consultant who specialized in historical empire transitions. She brought data, analysis, and a blunt assessment. The Valorian Empire is at a tipping point, she explained to the combined group, similar to several Earth empires at the moment of collapse. The Roman Empire, the British Empire, the Chinese dynasties, all faced the same problem. They were built on assumptions that were no longer true. So we are doomed, Velmore said. Not necessarily. Some empires transitioned successfully. They changed from conquest-based power to influence-based power, from direct rule to voluntary association. It's possible, just very difficult. And if we fail, then your empire fractures, possibly violently, possibly with civil wars that could last centuries. Ithrine spoke up. What if we used humanity as a catalyst for change? What if we publicly formed an alliance with them? Not as subjects, but as equals. It would be shocking, unprecedented, but it might work. The other vassal species would demand the same treatment, General Krathor said. Exactly. Ithrine replied. We transition from an empire to a confederation. Species stay associated with us because of mutual benefit, not fear. It preserves the structure while changing the foundation. My father would never agree, Velmore said. He built his identity on being emperor, absolute ruler. To admit equals, then perhaps it is time for new leadership, General Krathor said quietly. Everyone stared at him. I am not suggesting violence, the general clarified. But the emperor is old, even by our standards. Perhaps he should retire. Perhaps a younger ruler, one who understands the new reality, should take the throne. Velmore looked terrified. You want me to overthrow my father? I want you to save your people. There's a difference. Maybe, Minji said. We don't need to choose right now. We have 5 days before the Grand Fleet arrives. Let's focus on that problem first. But the choice was already being made, Deho realized. The prince was changing before their eyes. The arrogant, proud royal was becoming something else. A leader who understood that sometimes saving your people meant admitting you were wrong. On the 4th day, they had a plan. It was risky. It required perfect timing. It required the emperor to be reasonable, which was not guaranteed. But it was the best option they had. If this works, Velmore said, it will change everything. Not just for Valorians and humans, but for every species in the empire. Change is coming anyway, Kyungsoo said. We're just choosing what kind of change it will be. The prince nodded slowly. Then let us hope we choose wisely. The Grand Fleet would arrive tomorrow. Deho spent the night staring out at the stars, wondering if they had just saved two civilizations or doomed them both. The Grand Fleet arrived like a golden tide. 300 Valorian warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a perfect formation. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Even knowing their technology was outdated, the sheer number of vessels was impressive. Emperor Tharnix's image appeared on every screen, every display, broadcasting to all ships in the sector. He looked magnificent in his full ceremonial armor, his dark purple body glowing with power. Captain Deho of the humans, you have defied the Valorian Empire. You have insulted our authority. You have spread lies about your capabilities. This ends now. You will surrender immediately, or my fleet will destroy you. Deho looked at Kyungsoo, who nodded. They had prepared for this. Your Majesty, Deho said calmly, we request the honor of speaking with you directly, face to face. Prince Velmor has something important to share with you. Dona Kamen with you. Dona Kamen with you has really. Dona Kamen with you. Dona Kamen with you has son. Dona Kamen with you. Dona Kamen with you has something. The Emperor's expression darkened. My son? What does he have to do with this? Everything, father, Velmor said, stepping into view of the transmission. Please, come aboard the human vessel. Alone, if you wish, or with your entire guard, but come and see what I have seen. Learn what I have learned. For a long moment, the Emperor said nothing. Then, very well. But know this. If this is a trick, my fleet will turn this sector to dust. 2 hours later, Emperor Tharnix stood in the conference room of the Seongji. He had brought 20 guards, all in full armor. General Krathor was with him, along with several advisors. The Emperor looked around the room with barely concealed contempt. So this is human technology. It looks primitive. It looks simple, Ithrine corrected gently. There is a difference, Your Majesty. The Emperor ignored her. My son, explain why I should not order the destruction of these insects. Velmor took a deep breath. Because they are not insects, father. They are more advanced than we are. Significantly more advanced. And if we fight them, we will lose. Badly. Lies. Cowards' lies. Then, let me show you the truth. What followed was the most difficult hour of Deho's life. They showed the Emperor everything. The engine comparisons. The weapons tests. The material analysis. The computational differences. With each revelation, the Emperor grew quieter. His glow dimmed. His posture slumped. Ithrine presented her findings about lifespans and technological development. Unji shared her analysis of empire transitions. General Krathor gave a military assessment that was brutally honest. The Grand Fleet could not win this fight. When it was over, Emperor Tharnix sat in silence for a long time. Then he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. 10,000 years. 10,000 years of believing we were supreme, that we were chosen, that we were invincible. And it was all, what? Luck? We simply never met anyone who could challenge us? You built something real, Junho said. Your empire has lasted longer than most civilizations. You've brought peace and progress to hundreds of worlds. That achievement doesn't disappear because someone else is more advanced, doesn't it? The Emperor looked up. How can I lead when I was so completely wrong? How can they follow me? Velmor knelt beside his father's chair. Maybe by admitting you were wrong. Maybe by choosing to change rather than to fight. That takes a different kind of strength. You have grown wise, my son. When did that happen? About 3 days ago, father. It was very uncomfortable. One. Despite everything, the Emperor almost smiled. Then his expression hardened again. But if we admit weakness, if we show that humans are more powerful, our vassal worlds will rebel. The empire will fracture. Chaos will spread. Unless we control how the information spreads, Kyung-soo said. Unless we present it the right way. Explain. Kyung-soo outlined their plan. It was simple in concept, but complex in execution. The Valorian Empire would not surrender to humanity. Instead, they would announce a new era, an era of equals. Humanity would become the first equal partner in what would transform from an empire to a confederation. We present it as progress, Kyung-soo explained. As the natural evolution of a mature civilization, the Valorian Empire was built on guiding younger species. Now it enters a new phase. Cooperating with equals, other species will be offered the same status over time as they develop. And if they refuse, if they rebel anyway, some might, Unji admitted. Change is always risky. But this way, you control the narrative. You lead the change rather than being destroyed by it. Emperor Tharnix stood and walked to the window, looking out at his fleet. I built my life on certainty, on knowing the Valorian Empire was supreme. You are asking me to build it on something else, on adaptation, Deho said. On the wisdom to change when change is needed. That's more impressive than just being strong. The Emperor turned to his son. What do you think, Velmor? You have spent days with these humans. You understand them better than I do. I think they are giving us a gift, Father. A way to survive what could have destroyed us. I think we should take it. General Crothor stepped forward. Your Majesty, I have fought for the Empire my entire life. 3,000 years of service. If you order me to attack the humans, I will obey. But I tell you now, it will be suicide. We will lose. And after we lose, the Empire will truly fall. This plan, this confederation idea, it is our only real option. Ronnerly. The Emperor looked at each of his advisors, then at the humans, then back at his son. Very well, he said finally. We will try this new path, but I have conditions. They negotiated through the night. The Emperor was not easy to work with. He wanted guarantees. He wanted safeguards. He wanted his dignity preserved. But slowly, point by point, they built an agreement. The Valorian Empire would transform into the Valorian Confederation. Emperor Tharnix would become the first speaker of the Confederation Council. Humanity would have equal representation. Technology sharing would be mutual, voluntary. Military cooperation would be discussed but not required. Most importantly, the transformation would be announced as the Emperor's idea. His vision for the future. His wisdom guiding the Empire to its next stage. It was not quite true, but it was true enough. And the other vassal species? Ithrine asked. Then we give it to them, Velmor said. Not all at once. That would be chaos. But over the next 10 years, we transition from forced vassalage to voluntary membership. Species that want to leave can leave. Those that want to stay can stay as equals. Some will leave, General Krathor warned. Better they leave peacefully than rebel violently, the Emperor said. He sounded tired but not defeated. We will preserve what can be preserved and release what cannot. 3 days later, the announcement was made. Emperor Tharnix addressed the entire empire, his image broadcast to 400 worlds. He spoke of tradition and progress, of strength and wisdom, of an empire that had guided the younger species and now welcomed its first equals. The humans have shown us new possibilities, the Emperor declared. Not through conquest, but through their own achievements. We welcome them as brothers and sisters among the stars. This is not weakness. This is evolution. This is the mark of a civilization that can change without breaking. The response was mixed. Some vassal worlds cheered. Others protested. A few declared independence immediately. But most waited, watching to see if this new confederation would actually be different from the old empire. 6 months later, Minji found herself working in a Valorian shipyard, helping to upgrade their engines. The Valorian engineers were proud but eager to learn. They asked endless questions. They took careful notes. They were not fast learners, but they were thorough. This quantum coil configuration, one engineer asked. Why is it more efficient? Minji explained, using her hands to demonstrate the energy flow. The Valorian nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his crystalline eyes. Nearby, Taejin was teaching Valorian pilots about human combat tactics. General Krathor himself attended the lessons. His ancient wisdom, meeting human innovation. On the Seongji, Daeho received a message from Earth. The Federation Council had reviewed everything. They were pleased. Humanity's first contact had been messy and strange, but it had ended well. No war, no destruction. Just two civilizations learning to understand each other. Prince Velmor visited often. He had become the primary liaison between humans and Valorians, a role he seemed to enjoy. He was less formal now, more comfortable asking questions and admitting ignorance. I have been thinking, he said to Daeho one day. Daeho felt embarrassed. Your Highness, we meant no disrespect. No, I understand now. We were ridiculous. All our ceremony and pride, based on never meeting real opposition. It must have been like watching children pretend to be conquerors. It was more complicated than that. Perhaps. But there is wisdom in laughter, I think. It is harder to be arrogant when someone finds you funny. Junho joined them, carrying data tablets. Your Highness, I've been studying Valorian biology more. I have a theory about why your species develops slowly. It's not just the longevity. Your crystalline structure makes you physically stable. Changes happen slowly in your bodies. So changes happen slowly in your culture. Interesting. And humans? Humans are fragile. We break easily. We age quickly. We have to adapt constantly, just to survive. It makes us flexible, but unstable. So we are stone and you are water, Velmor said. Stone is strong but does not flow. Water flows, but cannot stand alone. Maybe that's why this partnership works, Daeho suggested. Stone and water together make something neither could make alone. Hana appeared on the bridge screen. Captain, we're receiving delegations from 3 more vassal species. They want to meet the humans who changed the empire. They want to understand what happened. Tell them we'll be happy to meet them, Daeho said. Then he smiled. And tell them not to be too impressed. We're just people who got lucky with our technology. That's not quite true, Velmor said. Luck was finding us instead of a more aggressive species. But your technology, your adaptability, your willingness to communicate rather than conquer, that was not luck. A year after first contact, the Valorian Confederation was growing. Not all the changes were easy. Some species left. Some conflicts arose. But overall, the transformation was working. The ancient empire was becoming something new. Daeho stood in the observation deck of the Seongji, watching Valorian and human ships training together. They moved in formation, golden vessels and practical human ships, learning to work as one fleet. Yuna joined him. How are you feeling about all this? Tired, hopeful. Still a little like I'm going to wake up and find out it was all a strange dream. We changed the galaxy, Yuna said. We met an empire that thought it ruled the stars. And instead of destroying them, we helped them evolve. They did the evolving. We just showed them it was possible. That's not a small thing. Daeho thought about that first meeting. About Emperor Tharnix, in all his golden glory, demanding submission from species he did not understand. About the desperate urge to laugh. About choosing compassion over mockery, even when mockery was deserved. You know what I think, he said finally. I think humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our adaptability. It's our ability to see others as they are, not as we want them to be. The Valorians saw us as primitives to be ruled. We saw them as people who were wrong but could learn. That made all the difference. On the view screen, a Valorian ship signaled. It was Velmore, who had been promoted to Confederation Defense Coordinator. His first official act had been to formally thank the human crew who had, as he put it, saved us from ourselves with patience and terrible, terrible jokes. Captain Deho, Velmore said warmly, Ambassador Kyung-soo has approved your next mission. You are to explore the southern sectors and make contact with any species you find there. Share what you learned here. Help others understand that the galaxy has room for many kinds of civilizations. Understood, Your Highness. And Deho, if you meet anyone as ridiculously pompous as we were, try not to laugh at them too much. It's bad for diplomatic relations. I'll do my best, Your Highness. The transmission ended. Minji appeared at Deho's side, wiping oil from her hands. New mission? Where are we going? South. To see what else is out there. Think we'll find anyone as entertaining as the Valorians? I hope not. But as the Seongji turned toward unexplored space, Deho felt excitement building. Humanity had proven something important in this sector. They had shown that first contact did not have to mean conquest or submission. That different species could meet as equals, even when they were not equal in technology or power. They had met a kingdom and burst into laughter. But instead of letting that laughter divide them, they had used it as a bridge. They had chosen understanding over mockery, partnership over domination. It was not a perfect solution. There would be more challenges ahead, more difficulties as the Confederation grew and changed. But it was a beginning, a hopeful beginning, and for humanity, just finding its place among the stars, that was more than enough.